Hi, it's Stephanie again with the patient story here, still with Bobby, who's sharing his mantle cell lymphoma story. And we're on to the second video talking about the actual treatment. So Bobby, thanks again for taking us through how you got diagnosed. This is the fun part. Just kidding. All the treatment. I know you went to MD Anderson. I do, before we start that, before you started treatment, you actually ran a half marathon with your daughter. Can you start just telling us a little bit about that? I'll pull up the picture while you're talking about it.
Sure. Another emotional time. I had actually signed up for this race the year before. I had ran in 2015 and it was in Nashville. My daughter lives about 20 miles from Nashville. There we go. So after I got diagnosed, the doctor actually told me he did not want me to run. And, my point for my doctor was, when he finally acquiesced, was that I told him, I said, look, I'm not running this for my own self-satisfaction, gratification, whatever you want to call it. I said, I'm running to show that you can be sick and still run. You can be sick and still be active. And so he finally relented. And my daughter said, well, since he doesn't want you to overdo it, then I'm going to run with you. My daughter doesn't run at all. So
Wow.
It was probably a bigger achievement for her than it was for me, because she finished and we finished under the time limit. So
Wow.
it took me about 30 minutes longer the year that she ran it with me than I had the year before. And I kept telling her she just drug me down. But, yeah, it was a great experience to do that. Knowing that of all the things that were getting ready to be in front of us. And again, my point was, hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to show, we're going to show this cancer, who's in charge here.
I love that. I mean, just talk about kicking it off with a bang. Going into it strong. It's clear you're surrounded by love, and I think that's so wonderful. And that was April 30th, and just about a little over 2 weeks later is when you started your rituximab and then ibrutinib. Can you tell us, Bobby, what that regimen looked like? It was pills, how often, and then of course the glory of side effects.
Right. So the protocol for the treatment was the ibrutinib pills, which I took 4 of those every day. By the way, that is a blood thinner, and I'll share something along those lines. Since it's Christmas time, I'll share something that happened a little bit later. But then I took the rituximab. I had my first infusion was on a Monday, and I had 4 consecutive Mondays. So that was a month. So I had 4 weeks, one of those. Because I had started running, my heart rate had gotten fairly low. It was averaging somewhere between 47, 48 beats a minute, which was a side effect from the running. And the protocol for the treatment was that if your heart rate was in the 40s, you couldn't take it. Although, since I did get those results from exercise, the doctor felt like that it was not going to be an issue. So, but every time we would visit the doctor, they would have to call him before the treatment started because they would not mix it until he gave the approval that they could give it to me with my heart rate under 50. So that was a little bit of a drag, because usually we didn't get there till 4:30 in the afternoon to take the treatment, and it lasted anywhere between 4 and 6 hours, and then we had a 6-hour drive. So fortunately for me, sorry, I have some brain moments every now and then. I'm trying to remember what they, it's for itching. Uh, People take it for itching, for bites and things.
Cortisone or like,
So it's, anyway, they would inject that into the IV
mhm.
before they would actually give me the treatment, and I just knocked me out and went to sleep.
Oh, Benadryl?
That's it.
Look, I
Yeah.
have my moments too.
So yeah, it was about this big, the little vial was. But I mean, as soon as I took it, it was like lights were out.
Wow.
So I actually slept for about 4 or 5 hours, so which was about the length of time of the treatment. So when the nurse came in to take the needle out, she goes, "You're free to go home." So I was rested and ready to go.
Beauty sleep. How perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Didn't help any, but
was it your wife? So your wife drove too after?
no, no, I drove.
You drove by. Oh, okay, but did your wife go with you, or were you by
Oh
yourself?
yes, yes, she went with me every time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she had to bring along a book or something. She.
Yes, because in fact, the first treatment I had, they give it to you real slow because they don't know how you're going to react to it. And I'll have to send you this picture as well. But after about 4 hours, um, I woke up and I got a little restless, so I started walking the floor. But when I came back, she was in my bed. So I'm like, well, isn't this a deal? So then I had to sit in the chair the rest of the time. So, you know, you move, you lose.
You
But
know, not only she's strong, she's smart. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So just to be clear, the ibrutinib was a pill. You took it 4 times a day, and
Well,
this was,
actually, four pills at one time.
oh, 4 pills at one time. Okay,
4 pills
every
at one
single
time.
day. Okay,
Yes, I took
gotcha.
those every day.
Okay, and that lasted for months, and because it says from middle of May all the way through November was
Yes,
this whole treatment, and the rituximab, it was weekly for 4 weeks until about a month later. Then it was, you said, once every other month.
yes. So I did not have a treatment in June. I did have one in July. I did not have one in August, but I had one in September.
Okay, gotcha. That must have helped with the drive. You didn't have to drive 12 hours.
No,
um, did you feel side effects other than getting knocked out because of the Benadryl with the rituximab and then again with the ibrutinib? Did you feel anything?
no. The only side effect that I had, it was probably after. I don't think this happened until my July treatment. I did break out in a pretty serious rash. It lasted for about 2 days, and then it went away. It never came back after the other treatment. Did not have any side effects at all from anything.
Wow, that's great. I
Yes,
know.
it cruised right through it. In fact, um, uh, it was strange that I did continue to run all summer, and I ran my fastest 10K time, 5K time that I've ever run before.
Wow.
And all the time I was taking the pills and
Wow.
treatments. So physically, it did not affect me at all.
Yeah, that's incredible. And in fact, you also mentioned not only were you running, you continued to work as normal as well, which, of course, this is a very individual response. Not everyone's going to,
Yes.
respond that same way. But in November, you get this wonderful news. You're found to be in remission. How did they determine that? Did they just know because of the treatment regimen?
Okay. So during this year of 2016, I actually had 4 colonoscopies because even though my colonoscopy in December of 15 was clear, it was clear because there were no polyps. When I had my colonoscopy done in Houston, um, they actually took biopsies, and the cancer was prevalent in my colon. Um, it was, unfortunately for me, because of the prep and everything you have to go through for those, it was the last place that it showed up. So I actually had a colonoscopy in November, and it was clear. So it had already been clear everywhere else. So
Right.
the colon was the last place um, where they found the cancer, and so it was now gone. So then the doctor said, okay, it's time to uh, to go to the next phase because I was actually in a clinical trial. So I went from phase 1 to phase 2.
Oh, now I actually didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I probably didn't mention that, so my apologies for that.
No, not at all. I'm really curious about this clinical trial. So it was a trial where they were, what were they trying out, I guess? Was it the regimen of having the ibrutinib, rituximab, and then the hyper-CVAD following
Yeah,
it?
so the combination of the rituximab and the ibrutinib pills, that was the first time it had been done.
Mm.
I was in the trial I was in, I think maybe 150 people were in it. Actually got a chance one time to meet the number one guy that was the first person to be in the trial.
Wow.
But that was the that mixture was the why it was a clinical trial. The second phase of that, my normal treatment, uh, which I know we'll get into in a minute, but uh, the um, the normal treatment for what I had was 6-week-long chemotherapy treatments, or the hyper-CVAD. I only had to do 4.
Ah, okay, wow, very interesting. I'm probably going to have to ask you a couple follow-ups after we
No,
talk
that's fine.
about.
And again, I apologize
Oh,
for not including that.
you know what? I think it's a great sign that you don't remember these details because it just means it's been enough time that's passed, right? So,
Yes.
let's talk about the hyper CVAD. First, just as a side note, you did write in November when you were found to be in remission, there was a removal of melanoma. Was that related at all to the lymphoma, or was it just a sort
It
of?
was not.
Oh,
Actually, we had we had planned and went to Yellowstone National Park in August, knowing that my treatments were coming. My phase 1 treatments were coming to a close. I was getting ready to go to phase 2, and going to Yellowstone. Oh, okay. Going to Yellowstone was something I'd always wanted to do, and so we decided to go there as a family vacation. My son and daughter, and my son-in-law, we all went. Um, anyway, when my wife was looking at pictures, she noticed a really slight gray area where the skin had gotten a little discolored, and she actually saw it in the picture. And then she looked at it, and she's like, this doesn't look right. So we asked my doctor about it, and he sent me to a dermatologist. They did a small biopsy, just a little scrape. They have some very sharp tools, by the way. And she did just a little bit of scrape off of there, and biopsy it, came back, and it was melanoma. It was actually stage 0, but I look at it as somebody at my age where your skin starts to change anyway.
mhm.
It would have been something had I not been there and gone through had been in the hospital and done this, I would have never known it.
Right, right.
And
It's
would have probably just said, I'm just getting old, and that's just a spot that old people get. So
right, right.
I've not been one to go to the dermatologist, but anyway,
So it
so
worked
yeah,
out. It worked
so
out, and
yeah,
you were able
it
to
worked
catch.
out very well. Yes.
And sorry, really quick, I think this is another side note. I mean, your wife had noticed the enlarged lymph nodes. She also noticed sort of this discolored spot. And I think it's a testament to the fact that we sometimes can't even see it, or maybe, kind of don't think about it. So important to just have that vigilance around you. And I think it's so wonderful that you have that. But okay, so I'm glad it was stage 0. You got it taken care of. Um, just action-packed 2016 for you. Following month, right, the start of the month, they put the port in. And so can you describe the port, getting it actually put in just for people who are about to get one themselves?
Right. So actually had 2 options. One was to have a PICC line put in, which I did not want that at all. We'd actually visited a gentleman who had a PICC line. Um, we had visited him when he was doing his 3rd treatment, and having to go through all the, having to keep it, flush, and always be there, even though you could probably, tape it and put it under your shirt. I'm like, I don't want any part of it. So, we opted to have the port. Um, Again, it was something that they put you to sleep. Um, Although I do to this day, I do believe that I woke up uh, during the time he was doing it. Didn't feel anything, but because it was on December 1st, um, the doctor was singing Christmas carols, and I remember that. And I'm like, am I dreaming this, or is he really doing it? And so I asked one of the nurses, and she goes, yeah, he was singing Christmas carols. So yeah, so I was sort of coming out of it, as he was finishing up, but it really was really not a whole lot to it.
Wow.
They went ahead and accessed it while I was there, um, um, but I had it put in my right side. Excuse me, my left side, uh, because they said it would be better for you to have it there because I'm right-handed, and uh,
Right. And so you got the port put in, and you're saying they accessed it that very day. I mean, they put
yeah.
it in, and the first of your 4-week-long treatments for hyper CVAD started that day. Can you describe what that means? So were you inpatient for a week then, and kind of describe the daily schedule?
Okay. So the first day that we went in, had the port put in, then we had to go to the hospital part of the center, and we had to wait there um, for a room to open up. And we go up to the room. Uh, Nurse came in, explained, this is what you're getting ready to take. And forgive me, I do not remember any of the drugs. I probably should have had all this stuff written down. But anyway, um, she said, and these are the medications we're going to give you for nausea. I said, okay. So they started the treatment. I'd actually taken my laptop with me to work. It was on a Friday, and plugged right in. And I was answering emails and emailing people back. I was on the phone, uh, probably more so to get my mind off of it than I was trying to be a hero and saying I'm working through my treatments. Um, and Anyway, so Friday, after the close of business, about 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, uh, they had indicated to me that I needed to make sure that I walked every day. That I didn't need to lay in the bed, or they were going to come give me a shot in my stomach. I guess to make sure that the blood flow remained adequate. So we walked the first day. My wife and I walked, I think, about 3 miles all around the complex. And Saturday, the next day, we walked about 2 miles. And then Sunday, we got up, we went to the chapel, and my the alarm went off on my I can't remember what the device is called that actually holds the bags of medicine. Anyway, it went off, but one of my lines got kinked. So we came back um, to the room to get the alarm undone, and it just hit me all at one time.
Wow.
And it was like somebody just flipped a switch. And I went from being fairly active, walking around, and um, I got my little stickers and put on my door for walking the floor, to just basically being in the bed.
Right,
Um,
right, right. You just hit the wall. I mean, it just all of a sudden it was like
Literally,
a ton
yes.
of bricks. And by the way, for people wondering, I know you just referenced it, but you had mentioned the stickers were for each lap. Is that right? That you
Yes.
did?
Yes. On the floor, you had to, for every time you lapped around, you could stop at the nurse's station and they would give you a sticker. And so I figured out about how many stickers it would take for me to make a Christmas tree for my door. And so I made all the laps that I needed, and then took that picture when we got ready to leave.
Wow.
Yeah, I literally hit the wall that Sunday. So
Happened fast. What were you feeling? I know they'd given you anti-nausea medication, but what were those side effects?
okay, I really need, if time permits, I would really like to make sure that I get this in. Um, the worst side effect from the nausea medicine was that it basically put me in a depression. I laid in the bed, did not want to get up. It was a three, it was three different medications that they gave me, and I'm not sure what the three medicines were, but it literally caused me to go into depression. I've never understood um, why um, people give up, while they don't want to take any more treatments, or why they just say, I'm just ready to check out. I understand that now, because even though I'm not a depressed person, the medication just basically just said, I really don't care anymore.
Mm,
Um, and I didn't care to get up. I didn't care to get out of bed.
mm,
I didn't care to walk. And just, I'm like, just leave me alone.
mm.
Um, we actually had a friend that came in that wanted to come up and see me. And I had to tell my wife that I didn't want to see anybody.
Right,
And would you just go down, to the main floor and just, tell them I'm sorry.
right,
I didn't talk to my children on the phone, nothing. It's just, I was very depressed, very
right.
depressed.
I really appreciate you sharing that, Bobby, because there's not one person I've talked to who doesn't mention, some part of this mental health aspect of going through treatment like this, right? And you'd already gone through this, first phase, and then now you had to go through this harsh chemotherapy and the medication, and then the medication for the side effects have side effects, which,
Right.
hit us all differently as well. I do want to delve into that in the third video too. I think it's incredibly important to talk about. In addition to feeling that depression, Bobby, and then the nausea, what else did you feel? Any other notable side effects?
Other than, the normal things that go through taking this type of chemotherapy, you get sick, you lose your appetite, um, the whole time that they're trying to tell you to eat something, you need to eat something, you're just like, what's the point? You're going to eat it and then you're going to get sick. Um, but I really didn't have any appetite at all. Um, it was just, and the food was great. The first 2 days actually, that I was actually able to eat something, because you get to order off a different menu when you're an inpatient.
Mm,
Um, but starting on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, there was no appetite at all. Didn't
right,
want anything. Didn't, food was the furthest thing from my mind.
right, right. So you were pretty much like we saw that photo. You were probably just in bed a lot and trying to sleep things off or rest. And I know you noted here that it was about 18 days later, so 2.5 weeks later, your hair started to fall out. Can you describe the hair loss?
Well, as you can see, I have a pretty full head of hair
It's nice.
uh, for being 61 years old. Um, I was actually in the shower. The doctor said it was going to take it. He said, if your hair falls out, 2 weeks from the time you get home, it'll probably start falling out. And so I'm like washing my hair every day and nothing's changing. And I'm just rolling along. And I'm like, I went through phase one with no issues. I'm getting ready to go through phase two with no issues as well. And about the 14th day that we got home, was in the shower, washed my hair, and when after I rinsed my hair out, after I opened my eyes, I noticed that there was quite a bit of hair in the tub.
Mm,
And not only was it there, it was everywhere. And don't mean to get too graphic, but it took me about 30 minutes to clean the shower up. Um, uh, but it was I guess after I thought I had beaten it, and the fact that it happened, I was probably just disappointed. I really wasn't traumatized by it. I didn't know what I was going to look like with no hair. But um, anyway, it was just part of it.
Right.
So I did want to share one other thing. After my first treatment was over, it was the only time I did not drive home.
Mm.
We got in the car, I was still pretty much comatose from the nausea medicine, and they had to wheelchair me out, and got in the car, put the seat back, and told my wife, I said, just take me home.
Mm.
And she goes, I don't know how to go home. Because she had never driven home before.
Right.
So I had to get up enough to where I could get her out of the city, and then from there I just went to sleep.
Right. That's a
Fortunately, after I got home,
yeah.
um, the medicine, by the time we got home, the medicine actually started to wear off, and I was pretty much back to normal the next day.
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful.
yeah.
By the way, though, I'm glad you brought that up because I know it was only after that first cycle, but for some people, they may need to have a driver every time. It's important to know these things.
Right.
And to be clear, so you were there for the week. You had the infusion. Was it on the day one, and they just wanted to monitor you for the rest, or did they infuse you again after?
No, no, I was there. I was taking the treatment the whole time.
Gotcha. You were
So they
infused
would
every day.
every day, and they would change the bags out, and they told me how many bags that I would get from each of the medications, and I counted them, and I knew when the last one went in. I can promise you.
Wow. And to be clear, and it's okay if you don't remember this, but was it, I know it's 4 different drugs. Was it, they do one drug one day, or was it a cocktail each day?
I think it was different every day.
Got it. Okay. And wow, but then by the time you got home after that week, you didn't feel side effects while you were at home recovering.
None at all.
Wow. Okay. And how long would you have off? Did you have 1 or 2 weeks off before you'd have to go back in?
21 days.
21 days.
So we went on December 1st. The next time we went in, I believe, was December 28th.
Right. Okay,
So
gotcha.
we actually got home on we checked out of the hospital on the 7th.
Okay.
So 21, then it was 21 days. And I did have a small window where it didn't have to be exactly 21 days,
Right.
because I think my last treatment, I actually was outside that cycle, but just
Okay.
like maybe a day or two.
Gotcha. But for the most part, it was the week, 3 weeks off, then another
Yes.
week, 3 weeks off. And you did that 4 cycles. Again, the clinical trial was 4 instead of the usual 6
Yes.
cycles. How did you, as this wrapping up this section, how did you end the treatment? And you were already found to be in remission. So this was just to help kind of make sure that you were all the way through, right?
The
Yeah, just
doctor told, yes, the doctor, sorry to interrupt you. The doctor, because I asked the doctor, I said, okay, I'm in remission. Why do I have to go through this uh, maintenance ordeal with all this, harsh chemotherapy? And he said, a cell is very small. He said, I cannot guarantee, even though the PET scan was clear, the colonoscopy was clear, he said, I cannot guarantee that there's not a cell or two floating around. He said, this will take care of it. I said, okay. So, we did our deal. Also, I did want to make mention in cycles 2, 3, and 4, I did not take the cocktail. I believe I took some Ativan, um, which the main thing was I got sicker,
Mm,
but I took the sickness over the depression.
gotcha.
So only in the first cycle of the treatments did I ever get to that point. Um, the rest of the time, I just said, okay, I'll just get sick.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so I got sick and I slept, and I got sick and I slept. Um, but for me, it was it was better. I was more active. I was walking more, even though the treatments were supposedly getting harder. It helped me not to have to take the cocktail. So even though it was supposed to be something that helped me
Yeah.
mentally, for me, it was not something I wanted to do again. So
Right.
yeah, and I actually drove home after the last three treatments. So
Okay. Wow. So
it was
there's,
that much of a difference for me.
yeah. What did you call it again? Because I know you said you took Ativan. What was the first
They just call it a cocktail, and
cocktail?
it was
Okay.
3 different anti-nausea medicines.
Got it. Okay.
And that's just what they call it. They call it a cocktail.
Okay. All right.
And I'm
Thank
like, no more.
you.
I don't want that again.
Right. Right. You'd rather deal with the sort of physical sickness than
Yeah,
having to deal with what you had
right.
the first cycle. Wonderful. Well, stick around, Bobby, and we're gonna wrap up your interview with the. I do want to ask about the clinical trial, so we'll talk
Okay.
about that next.